Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our talk on the three great dynasties of China: Su, Tang, and Song. These dynasties are known for their remarkable contributions to Chinese history, culture, and society. Through their leadership, China experienced periods of great prosperity, artistic expression, and technological advancements. We hope that by exploring these dynasties, we can gain a better understanding of the rich heritage of China and its impact on the world. Thank you for joining us today. Our objectives will be: explain the reasons behind the establishment of Sui dynasty, analyze the social structures of Sui dynasty and its impact on society, identify the major cultural achievements of the Tang dynasty and as literature, art, and music. Also discuss the impact of Buddhism and Confucianism on the Tang dynasty. Describe the economic and technological advancements made by the Song dynasty, such as the invention of movable type printing and the use of paper money. Analyze the impact of these advancements on Chinese society and economy. And lastly, discuss the role of the Song dynasty in the history of Chinese technology and innovation. The Su dynasty was a brief one with only two reigning emperors. The Su dynasty improved and centralized the administration system, also established a single unified and less complex law code, and introduced land reforms. The Su dynasty began in 581 AD when Yang Jian, a general of the Northern Zhou dynasty, seized the throne and declared himself Emperor Wen. He unified the north and south of China, which had been divided for over 300 years, and established the Su dynasty. Emperor Wen was able to consolidate power and lay the foundation for the golden age of Chinese civilization that would come under his son and successor, Emperor Yang. In the government of Su dynasty, the emperor who had full authority presided over Su dynasty's centralized government. It means the emperor controls everything, and having the Grand Secretariat, a team of officials in charge of overseeing the empire's daily operations, provided the emperor with advice. Emperor Wen of Su declared himself emperor in 581 AD and worked towards reuniting China. He is most famous for his successful military campaigns against the Chen dynasty and Goguryeo kingdom. During his reign, he also implemented significant reforms in government, law, and religion. Second emperor, which is Emperor Yang of Sui, and also the last emperor of the Sui dynasty. He succeeded his father at the age of 21 and continued his efforts to reunify China, conquering the Chen dynasty, Baekje's kingdom, and parts of the Vietnam. He oversaw the construction of Grand Canal, connecting the Yellow River and Yangtze River, and other infrastructure projects to facilitate trade and transportation. The government has the old 9 ranks of officials, but were abolished during the Su dynasty, and instead, local prefects were selected on merit, which demonstrated in their performance in silver syllabus examinations held in the capital. This is to avoid corruption and abuse of personal corrections. And officials were then sent to provinces different from their birth. Same reason is to reduce local corruption and abuse of personal connection. In the geography of the Su dynasty, the emperor controlled a vast territory that include modern-day China, the parts of Korea, Vietnam, and Central Asia. The core of the Su dynasty was located in northern China, centered around the Yellow River Basin, which was the heartland of China's civilization. The capital of the Su dynasty was Chang'an, located in the modern Xi'an, and which was a political and cultural center of the time. As you can see on the map here, the Su dynasty expanded China's territory by conquering neighboring regions, including Shan dynasty in the south and also parts of Korea. The Su dynasty also controlled several mountainous regions including parts of the Tibetan Plateau and Taihang Mountains. The Zhou dynasty implemented a number of economic policies designed to stimulate growth and increase government revenue. For example, they introduced a system of equal field distribution which aimed to redistribute land to peasants and increase agricultural productivity. It is designed to ensure small farmers so they do not get swallowed up by large state owners. The governments allocated a plot which could be worked during the farmer's working lifetime. Unfortunately for the small farmers, much of the state's good intention towards lowly farmers was lost thanks to the corrupt officials who were bribed by large landowners to falsify records and claims. In the Zhou dynasty, agriculture was a key component. The equal field distribution system mentioned earlier aimed to redistribute land to peasants and increase agricultural productivity. This policy helps to ensure there was enough food to feed the growing population and provide a stable source of revenue for the government. The Zhou dynasty also invested in infrastructures for the projects. In addition to the Grand Canal, they constructed numerous roads, bridges, and other public works that facilitated trade and commerce. Like other dynasties in China, the Zhou dynasty had a rigid social hierarchy that was based on a person's birth and occupation. At the top of the hierarchy were the imperial family and other aristocrats, followed by scholars, officials, and merchants. Farmers and artisans were at the bottom of the hierarchy. During the Zhou dynasty, women had limited opportunities for education and employment. Outside of the home, they were expected to fulfill domestic duties and to bear and raise children. However, there were some exceptions to these gender roles, such as women who are in the higher ranking of the society, and also they have personal connections who have power and influence. The Zhou dynasty had a strong military culture, and the imperial court was heavily involved in military affairs. That's why the Zhou dynasty has conquered many places or neighboring countries, and soldiers were drawn from all levels of society, and military service was a way for commoners to achieve upward mobility. So this gave a chance for the peasants and the merchants to be able to reach the royal family or to become a royal family. The Zhou dynasty was founded by Emperor Wen, and he was a Buddhist and supported the spread of Buddhism throughout China. He built many temples and sponsored translations of Buddhist eras, which contributed to the growth of Buddhism in China. The Zhou dynasty was also influenced by the legalism, a political philosophy that emphasized the importance of strong laws and harsh punishments to maintain social order. Emperor Yang implemented a series of legal reforms, including a uniform legal code, standardized weights and measures, and a system of granaries to ensure that population had enough food. The uniform legal code means that everyone gets a legal and equal opportunity and the same laws that apply to them no matter what rank you are in the hierarchy. The Zhou were nothing if not ambitious, though, and they were not merely interested in protecting their borders, but also dramatically expanding them. Things went well in the south with Zhou armies conquering territories from the Annam and the Champa in southern Vietnam. In 598 CE, the Zhou dynasty launched an expedition to attack Goguryeo in China and northern Manchuria. However, the Chinese ran out of supplies and were hit with heavy rains and had to return home. A second invasion in 611 CE by sea was destroyed in storm. A third invasion was launched in 612 CE, led by Yang Di himself, but the Zhou army suffered a resounding defeat at the Battle of South Zhou River, with only 2,700 soldiers returning to the China out of 300,000. Goguryeo rebuffed two more attacks in 613, 600 CE. In 628 CE, Goguryeo built a 400-kilometer-long defensive wall to deter any further Chinese ambitions. The Sui dynasty faced significant economic challenges, including inflation, which was caused in part by the government's heavy spending on infrastructure projects, including the Great Canals and the funding of armies conquering neighboring cities. Despite their economic success, the Sui dynasty faced significant challenges. One of them was, as I said, was the heavy spending on infrastructure projects. This allows inflation to grow higher, make it difficult for peasants to pay their taxes, and led to social unrest. Despite the achievements in the expanding the empire and building and impressive infrastructures, Emperor Yangdi is often criticized for his oppressive policies and extravagance, which contributed to the downfall of the Sui dynasty. The defeat to Goguryeo and the hardships endured by the Chinese peasantry led to the widespread rebellion in 613 CE, which was only fueled by more military losses. This time to the Eastern Turks. The rebellion struggled on until 617 CE, when Yangdi was assassinated by the son of one of his generals. The Sui dynasty fell and the government was taken over by one Li Yuan, later to be known as Gaozu, the founder of the Tang Dynasty. We'll move on to the next one. Tang Dynasty is unique in that it was briefly ruled by a woman, Empress Wu Zetian, who seized power in 690 and ruled until 705. The Tang Dynasty was renowned for its military power and imperialistic ambitions, which resulted in the infiltration of nations like Tibet, Korea, and Vietnam. The Tang Dynasty's geography was located in China. Its capital city was Chang'an, which was one of the largest and most cosmopolitan cities in the world during the Tang Dynasty. The empire's territory covered a vast area including present-day China, parts of Central Asia, and even parts of what is now Korea, Vietnam, and Tibet. In the government, Yuan Huaji and a popular general of the army, Li Yuan the Duke of Tang, rose in rebellion and took control of the Sui dynasty. Li Yuan then became Emperor Gaozu and founded the Tang Dynasty. Gaozu was an effective monarch who reformed policies which had led to the abuses under the Sui dynasty. Gaozu maintained his rule, though creating the Tang legal code in 624 CE, which would be used by future dynasties and was even copied by other nations like Japan, Korea, and Vietnam. He also reformed the aristocracy to prevent overtaxation of the peasant farmers, and redistributed land parcels. Although he ruled well, his son Li Shimin saw room for improvement. Li Shimin had fought alongside his father to establish the Tang Dynasty and felt he should play a larger role in making policy. He chose his son Li Jianqing as his heir, which Li Shimin could not accept because he thought that of his efforts in putting down the Sui rebellion. Li Shimin overthrew the government, killed his brothers, among them is Li Jianqing, then forced Gaozu to yield power to him. Taizong had shown himself to be an effective general under his father's administration. Gaozu is the name of his father, then Taizong is the name of Li Shimin when he took control of the Tang Dynasty. So, under his father's administration, that no one could challenge him once he took control. Whatever his father had accomplished, Taizong, improved upon, came to be regarded as co-founder of the Tang Dynasty.
and a model of just and efficient ruler. In 685 CE, Taizong chose a beautiful 15-year-old girl named Wu Zhao as one of his concubines. Wu Zhao then became one of the most important emperors during the Tang Dynasty. When Taizong died in 649 CE, Wu submitted the establishment custom and had her head shaved with the rest of Taizong's concubines. She was sent to a temple to live out the rest of her life as a nun. Li Zi is Taizong's son, who now became Emperor Gaozong. Had brought her back to the court because he was in love with her. Wu became Gaozong's first concubine, and his love for her upset his wife, Lady Wang, and the former first concubine, Lady Xiao. When Gaozong died in 683 CE, she declared herself Empress Wuzixian, the ruler of heaven. She improved education, taxation, agriculture, and reformed the government in the excesses of the Chinese aristocracy. Following the path of other rulers in China, she became more interested in her own comfort and pleasure towards the end of her reign, and was forced to abdicate in favor of her son, Zhongzong. Under Xuanzong's reign, the Tang Dynasty began its golden age. According to Justin Wintle, his religious and political reforms resulted in domestic tranquility, which encouraged productivity and foreign trade. Xuanzong abolished the death penalty, improved the economy through security on the Silk Road, maritime trading, and financial reforms, constructed temples and administrative complexes, and built roads and increased industry. He then reorganized the military so that farmers were no longer conscripted against their will and built a professional army of veterans who were more effective in guarding the borders and reclaiming land from nomadic tribes. Xuanzong was a cultured man, a poet who patronized the arts and encouraged creative expressions. After Xuanzong, the Tang Dynasty went downhill when the government was too corrupt and the emperors were only giving attention to themselves and not to his people. So, that is how the fall started. In the economics of Tang Dynasty, over 50,000 poems, plays, short stories, and other literary works were produced during the Tang Dynasty, mainly under Xuanzong's reign, and an encyclopedia was completed. Woodblock printing, which began on a large scale under Taizong, was improved and more books became available, which led to greater literacy and better jobs for the lower classes, since they were eligible to take civil service exams for jobs. Technological advancements led to the creation of clocks and the first clock mechanism in the world. It was invented by the engineer Yi Xing in 725 CE. Mechanical experts also resulted in the creation of automatons, motorized figures, and who move by themselves. One example of Tang automatons was the motorized monks who collected donations. An example of some Tang automatons are represented in this picture. The poor who used to wear mainly animal skins could now afford the line worn by the middle class. Though the material the poor could buy was coarser, the quality of life for the people of China improved radically, and increased trade brought new ideas, inventions, and products in great numbers than ever before. The Tang Dynasty was decided when Xuanzong began his personal decline, which led to the downfall of the entire dynasty and plunged the country into chaos. In the philosophy of Tang Dynasty, there are three types of religion that came in the highest: Neo-Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism. Neo-Confucianism emerged as a dominant philosophical movement during the Tang Dynasty, emphasizing the importance of moral purity, inner cultivation, and social harmony. Taoism also played the role in the philosophy of the Tang Dynasty, emphasizing the importance of living in harmony with the natural world and achieving a state of balance and tranquility. Buddhism was of major philosophical influence during the Tang Dynasty because it emphasized the importance of compassion, wisdom, and detachment. The sociology of the Tang Dynasty. It was a time of rapid urbanization, with many people moving from the countryside to the cities in search for work and better opportunities. This led to the growth of urban centers such as Chang'an, which became one of the largest cities in the world at the time. The Tang Dynasty also was marked of a rigid social hierarchy that divided people into different classes based on their occupation, family background, and education. At the top were the aristocrats, followed by scholars, peasants, artisans, and merchants. The social status of women varied depending on their family background and marital status. The woman's status varied depending on their social class and marital status. And elite women had more opportunities for education and cultural activities. Elite women meaning being in the higher hierarchy. But they were also subject to strict social norms and expect to adhere to the traditional gender roles. Women from lower classes had fewer opportunities and were often relegated to domestic duties. Although the Tang was a dynasty of strong and rich empire renowned for its urban growth, magnificent cities, and flourishing religious and artistic life, the imperial government control over labor, army, and grain production made this possible. However, the dynasty's power declined as a result of losing control over these crucial factors, making it less able to deal with both internal and external crises. There was a widespread famine in China due to drought, and the government was doing nothing to help its family or its people. The emperors of the Tang Dynasty who followed the Guangzhou Rebellion was ineffective, and the dynasty ended in 907. Shaozong was well-meaning and did his best but could not reverse the dynasty's decline, which had steadily progressing since the An Lushan Rebellion. The ruthless warlord Zhu Guanzong killed Shaozong in 904 CE and installed his 11-year-old son Ai as an acting emperor. Ai, the last of the Tang emperors, reigned from 904 to 907 CE when Zhu ordered his 15-year-old assassination. Following the An Lushan Rebellion, the period of 5 dynasties and 10 kingdoms saw the strengthening of the warlord's family and associates who had claimed territories. The Song Dynasty was a ruling dynasty in China from 960 to 1279 CE. It was divided into two periods, the Northern Song and the Southern Song. During the Song Dynasty, China experienced significant advancements in technology, art, literature, and science. The Chinese invented the magnetic compass, gunpowder, and printing techniques using movable type, which allowed for the mass production of books. The development of porcelain, silk weaving, and other crafts also flourished during this period. The Song Dynasty was founded by Zhou General Zhou Kaoyin, who was endorsed as emperor by the army in 960 CE. The geography of the Song Dynasty was in the capital at Kaifeng, but when the northern part of the state was invaded by the Jin state, the Song moved their capital to Zhangzhou. Goods are also then exported along the Silk Road and across the ocean. As you can see on the northern Song, there are still large areas that is occupied by the China or the Song Dynasty. But when it comes to the southern Song, it has cut in half due to the Jin state that has invaded the Song and rebelled in the Song Dynasty. The Silk Road was a network of ancient trade routes formerly established during the Han Dynasty of China in 130 BCE. The Silk Road was a trade route used mainly by countries to exchange products and goods and also ideas. The Silk Road was a big help during the times in the past because it gave them more food, ideas, and equipments. In the economics of the Song Dynasty, Kaifeng is a major trade center. It is especially famous for its movable type printing, money paper, textile, and porcelain industries. And rural farmers became more efficient, and farmers are producing more than they require for their own needs. Benefited from the industrialization and was well supplied by nearby mines producing coal and iron. Rural farmers then began to grow crops they knew would demand high price such as sugar, oranges, cotton, silk, and tea. Imported goods are horses, camel, sheep, cotton, ivory, gem, and spices. Rice and tea became dominant food during the Song era. In the government of the Song dynasty, it is from a society ruled by a hereditary aristocrat order to a society governed by a central bureaucracy of scholar officials chosen through the civil service examinations. This is a way to prevent personal connections and corruptions, and also the bureaucracy was divided into the three branches: the civil service, the military, and the consulate. The civil service was further divided into the 9 ranks, and officials were appointed based on their performance in the imperial exams. The military was also responsible for the defense of the empire and was led by the emperor or a military commander appointed by him. The consulate was responsible for monitoring the conduct of officials, reporting any wrongdoings to the emperor. In the philosophy of the Song dynasty, we have 3 major religions: Buddhism, Neo-Confucianism, and Taoism. We'll start with Buddhism, as it had complex interaction with Confucianism and Taoism during the Song dynasty. Some Buddhists sought to integrate Buddhist teachings with Confucian, Taoist ideas, while others emphasized the uniqueness of Buddhist thought and practice. Next is Neo-Confucianism. The great philosopher Zhu Xi taught hopeful students a new and purer version of Confucianism. Neo-Confucianism taught people proper Chinese views of the cosmos and of behavior, and provided answers for other big questions of life. Lastly, Taoism. During the Song dynasty, Taoist thinkers developed new ideas of the nature of the Tao and its relationship to the world. They emphasized the importance of the inner cultivation of the self and the pursuit of longevity and immortality. Moving on to the sociology of the Song dynasty, the China saw a significant increase in urbanization and development of cities. This led to the growth of social hierarchy, with wealthy merchants and landowners occupying the top ranks, following by the scholars and officials, and then artisans and commoners. Social mobility was possible through education and success in the civil service exams, but this was limited to a small portion of the population. The Song dynasty also saw the rise of the new Confucianism, which emphasized the importance of family and hierarchical relationships within society. Women were often confined to domestic roles, but some women were able to gain education and participate in public life. The fall of the Song dynasty began by the early 12th century CE. China's position as master of East Asia was coming under increasing threat from attacks in the north by the Liao and the Xia states again. Even more dangerous were the Jurchen tribes people in the northern eastern parts of China. The Jin state attacks parts of northern China, which even the great General Tongguan could not stop. The Jin made the southern Song Dynasty, and they moved from the southern part of the China until 1268 CE that the Mongol leader Kublai Khan his sights on the land south of the Yangtze River. First, the strategically important city of Xiang was besieged and it fell in the 1273 CE. Thanks to the Mongols' persistent and superior catapults, the China has fallen. The invaders then crossed the Yangtze River in 1275 CE and proved unstoppable. The ruthless slaughter of the entire city of Changzhou, the end of the Song dynasty, was definitely high.